In this episode of the Strategy Podcast, I want to talk about the fifth mistake I see companies make when it comes to executing strategy. And this is really the mistake here is ignoring what I call organizational physics. It's really about making sure that you understand how work flows through an organization in the most effective way and making sure that that happens. What I see companies do is they come up with all their ideas, they push it all forward, and they push all these ideas into the organization. And before you know it, you found the organization to be extraordinarily busy, and then at some point in time, it feels like there's organizational gridlock. There's just nothing happening, and things are taking forever. And that's one of the most common problems I see CEOs complain to me about, is that the organization is too slow. It's not making enough progress quickly enough. And this really comes from either ignorance or an awareness or ignoring the way that work flows through an organization, the organizational physics of workflow. And so let's talk a bit about how work flows through an organization. And I think it's useful to me. I find it useful to kind of to connect it to or give a metaphor that helps me understand it. And the metaphor I use is traffic. All right, so traffic on a freeway. When the freeway is open, the cars can go as fast as the drivers want. Some will go slow, some will go fast. But if there's lots of capacity, open capacity on the freeway, all you really need to do is make sure people are maintaining their speed to make sure they're making maximum progress. But at that, when there's that few cars on the road, you're not getting a lot of work done. More cars need to come on. It's actually to carry more of the load, and that works well. And at some point, though, traffic congestion starts to build up, and there is a point where you're balancing. You have, if you will, maximum density versus maximum speed, and that's really the point at which you're getting the maximum volume of work done at any given time. And maintaining that maximum balance between speed and workload is essential to getting the work to flow as quickly as possible and in the greatest magnitude possible. Now, many companies think that means everything's that we operate close to 100% capacity. That's how that's going to happen, but that's not how work flows. If you look at a freeway system, the road with nobody on, no traffic on it, the cars might be able to drive 80 or 90 miles an hour with no problem. But the maximum flow happens when you've kind of got about a speed of around 45 miles an hour usually, because that's kind of the place where you don't get too much congestion to slow things down, but you've got enough cars on the road to get a lot of work done, and you're maintaining a constant speed. And that's kind of what we want to have happen inside the organization. And that may mean that some people are operating at 50% capacity, others are operating at 100% capacity, and some may be just not doing very much at all. But that's okay, because you're not necessarily trying to optimize and get every individual working at 100% capacity. What we're trying to do is get the organization as a whole to get as much work done as possible. And the easiest way to do this, and if you look at what happened, how they manage traffic flow, is to regulate the release of work into the environment. So this has been done in this kind of process approach has been done very successfully in companies that have that manage multiple projects all at once. What you see is if you regulate and restrict the number of projects, if you will, that the company can work on at any given time, they make a huge amount of progress. And the principle has to be focus on a few. When one of those that's in flight has been completed, then you can add a new one into the system, and that gives you, again, back to the three, say, you're working on. But you always need to finish before a new one starts. And that means you need some place to hold the ideas of what's next, what initiatives need to follow the ones that are in flight. Put them in a parking lot. As you have new ideas, add them to the parking lot. Once you've completed one, reprioritize the issues that are in the parking lot. Pick the most important one. Push that back into the work. And then when you've completed another one, you pull one from the parking lot and you can repeat the process. But it's that workflow regulation that helps you get to the maximum flow. And don't be so concerned with any individual person in the company being underutilized. The important thing is that, if there's one person who's underutilized, there's going to be other people who are working at 100%. And they're not going to end up being able to, if the other person works at 100%, all you're doing is pushing more work towards those people who are already bottlenecked. And so you need to have the whole system working at maximum capacity. And that means slowing it down a little bit and focusing the work on the things that are the most important. I hope the Strategy Podcast has been helpful and useful in your work. My name's Alex Nesbitt. I'll see you in the next podcast.